Okay, 29, 22 seconds. So, you know, I mean, the God figurehead, maybe representing this unquestioning belief, unquestioning system at which things function. Maybe it's a requirement, maybe without it, humans would go crazy, right? As we already have, like things already have. Like, anything I touch, it's already cursed. So I can't, like, I don't even know what to say, like trees breathe in carbon dioxide and they breathe out oxygen. So, could go there. Because that's the opposite of what I do. You're breathing in oxygen, breathing out carbon, and then you're claiming carbon's changing, the world and all that. So then, you get what you get. But then again, it's like humanity always seems to be either looking for an escape from the original reality, or maybe it's not that. Maybe it's just, like certain people, but like we're looking for a different reality. It's like there's a different reality where things have a different script, different like whole thing, and the Matrix. And I don't expect people to feel bad for me. The voice I make is the voice I make. It was never meant to sound a certain way. Everything was strictly objective. I want it to be strictly objective, and I can make the computer voice thing occur if that's what need be. But it is what it is. I don't even know. It's like your mind tries to script up something, you follow through on the script, but ignorance is bliss, and that's it. Like the rest was the rest. I could run away from my problems and throw objects to make it harder for people to find me, and wherever I go in the world or the universe. A universe is based on colors or shapes or whatever the hell. And obviously you can think pleasant thoughts, and I already said you could sit in the corner, suck your thumb, and hope to feel better, but unfortunately I don't think that's what it is. I don't think that's the truth. And my parents, they ran away from a problem. I think they ran away from a problem, and it only served nothing. So I don't know, like, the human cure, what it would be. If I was in charge, obviously I have my own way of doing things. That's how I would do things. I'm not the leader though, so I don't want people to think that I'm the leader. I'm not, because I'm not the leader. I have intelligence, but I by no means am I the one who will solve every issue. And just, I don't know, the way I beat off was obviously something that psychologically, permanently, it's a psychologically incurring thing, because it's not natural, right? It's not natural. It's not the natural way people lived before, and we keep on looking for the natural way people live, right? Unaltered fate, no interference from the future to the past, or the past to the present. I mean that's the only way you live, right? You wouldn't want to live like I can't deal with this. Like, this is like games like Spore, like they're a heavy pill to swallow. Like, playing at like 6 years old. I mean, instead of maybe being outside talking to people, and then the whole thing where like people tell stories, and you look at human history, how people engaged before, and it seems like the same issue. Like, there's like the people trying to control, like, every moment of their life to try to like control it, modifying food and all these things. And then there's the people, there's the people like the original concept. And if the guy with the crack pipe wanted, the guy with the crack pipe wanted a fate that was different, from what he was given, to find, to gain it, to get house, to get food, house, and a stable job, and to graduate the college, right? They would have taken it over me, right? They would have taken it over me, and all power to them. But I think I have the right to make famous last words, and I get it. Like in the world of one person, right? In we'll call it the original concept. Once you leave the original concept, you're famous in the original concept. Because in the land of the one-eyed, in the country of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, right? So, but like it's not. It's like I get it. Like the shock factor, certainly shocks lots of people, and I'm sure technology would have progressed regardless. But like, and I mean, maybe some people really did lead themselves to their own demise, and I'm just being totally honest, right? But you want to be careful because it's not always the case. And I get it, like, I'm a hated person, right? And if you wanted to look at my life in one perspective, I don't feel bad for this guy, and screw him, and his creed and all that. I get it from the Canadians, I get that. I didn't, I don't. Okay, my cane is. Like, I get that, like, I apologize, but like I said, like, some of these things are common sense, right? For some people, these are common sense, they experienced the problem once, they incurred about it, and then they moved on, right? But, other people, it's not, and so, I can't hold judgment past, right? And again, impulse control and life control and all these things. Because it's impossible to say, it's impossible to say. A lot of things people tried, they haven't worked, maybe, as far as talking to people and in the language that, everybody hates, or a lot of people hate. English is a hard language to learn, though. That is a truth, like anybody will to testify. Because it's the equivalent to being like, there is, there was a right way for history to occur, and that, that there, there was a correct way that, the history kind of occurred. And then again, this isn't my pet cat I'm talking about. This isn't, my pet cat that I'm talking about. This isn't about, this isn't my pet cat I'm talking about. This isn't, a computer game. This is real life. Because in the country of the one-eyed man is king, right? So that king would be me, right? That king would be me, because in the original world, like the actors and the athletes, and actors and actresses were like, they, they go out there and they make a presence of themselves. They stand out from the crowd and they speak for everybody. That's a bold move to make, because they're overcoming social anxiety, they're overcoming, negative thoughts, putting up an effort, and we can respect that, and I guess that's why they get paid and all that. But again, the person might not be a nice person because the crack pipe thing, and the crack pipe thing and all that, and the crack pipe problem, the thing where the person's behavior is not authentic. They're not authentically a good person because you quantified that using money, and then the whole thing kind of just, so you could be born whatever, but, and this is why, you could claim the states whatever, but the pot was boiling there sooner, and that's the only thing. You can learn from it. These technologies like YouTube and all this, they came from the States, and you can distract yourself and try to use your fear to go into some different schizo reality entirely, but the truth still stands as what it is.